This is Terra Monstrum with Tyler and Chauncey, where we discuss all things horror, cult, and monster movie related for your listening pleasure. This week we'll be covering the latest Marvel release, Venom, and a personal favorite of Chauncey's, The Night of the Creeps. First, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about Venom. I honestly had heard negative things, and it ended up being a bit of a joyride for me. I enjoyed the majority of the movie.
It was okay, so I'm probably coming from an angle that you're not. I'm a bit of a comic book nerd.
Okay.
Are you a comic book nerd?
I like a lot of comics, but I'm not deep into the Marvel universe or anything. Like, I've read all of Saga, I've read all of The Walking Dead. Like, there's a lot of series I've gone through, just not in depth into Marvel's world.
Yeah, I grew up in Marvel. I grew up in X-Men specifically, but you can't help but to touch down on a lot of this other stuff too. So,
No, for sure.
so I was initially the connections in the movie that aren't connected to the comic. I was initially like a little thrown off by, and I'm watching, and I go into watching the thing, and I wasn't sure what to expect. So, I agree, it was like a thrill ride, and I enjoyed. I like everything. Even if I hate it, I kind of liked hating it.
I know.
Nope.
I
But
know.
I enjoyed this on the roller coaster ride aspect.
Yeah, it was fun. It was it's like cotton candy. I get when you bite into it, there's not too much there, but it's enjoyable throughout.
Yeah, definitely. My one of my first complaints is I didn't feel like Eddie Brock was actually the character that he was in the comics. I thought,
oh, he wasn't at all. I didn't think so either, because he's he's kind of mean and. Well, this is just me going off the Spider-Man animated TV show. So I guess
it's accurate enough.
It's accurate enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was spiteful. He was vindictive against Peter Parker and kind of a loner himself. So
yeah, he wasn't particularly a good guy.
Yeah. But I mean, like even his personality traits weren't even close to good guy traits. Like there's nothing about him that you were supposed to really empathize with.
Yeah, I agree. But at least they made him kind of a jerk with the email thing, and
yeah. I feel like they made him overall good, but still kind of shitty. And I felt like Tom Hardy did a good job there.
Right. Yeah. And I could tell that they were trying to portray him and the girl for some reason. They were trying to portray them both as being somewhat morally ambiguous. But I didn't think that they like portrayed it very well. They just kind of threw it out there like, oh, they're cool with eating heads off. It's fine.
Yeah, no, that was weird. Like, I'm 100% with you, especially Michelle Williams. Like, what? She seems totally fine with it. Also, that if what she said was true about it being the symbiote's idea to make out with Tom Hardy, like, also cool with kind of having your body taken over immedately.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, totally. So basically you've now murdered somebody and basically been forced into a sexual abuse situation,
Yeah. But
and
I mean,
you're cool with it.
Look at how long it took Tom Hardy to come to grips with Venom. Like that was a good 30 minutes of the movie. Michelle Williams gets that whole story arc off screen in what, 3 or 4 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, I felt the same thing with the Carlton Drake character. Like he just bonded real quick and all was cool. I guess the argument can be made there that the symbiote, that one's name was Riot, that the Riot symbiote had already been in a bunch of people.
Yeah, but does that make a difference? I didn't pick up on that. That's a good point, though. It could.
Yeah, it kind of looked like the yellow one. I think his name is Phage in the comics. All those symbiotes were actually from the comics. And the yellow one, it was sort of implied or shown that it bonded with too many things and it didn't work and it died.
Yeah.
Where this other one, Riot, apparently was able to walk halfway, from Asia somewhere.
Yeah.
To what I assume. What was it?
I mean, that brings up an interesting point, Chauncey, because if you ignore the aspects like the deeper lore of a symbiote, like that, it's easier to process what's happening in the movie. But if you start picking into it and digging into it, it didn't really seem like they fully established their rules for how a symbiote bonds, like what creates a strong bond, and like you said, whether or not bonding with more and more people gives you a better ability to bond or a worse ability to bond.
Right. Yeah, and in the case of comic books, I understand that comic books have been around a long time. Venom wasn't created by Todd McFarlane, but he really sort of came to prominence when Todd McFarlane was doing Spider-Man, and I realized that those abilities change over time, and they sort of retcon stuff and stuff like that. But I mean, they're out there. It's not like they had to sit down and have a meeting about what the whole backstory was going to be.
Yeah. They don't have to come up with it. They don't have to come up with it because, there's how many timelines and how many reboots for them to pull from.
Right.
It's not just that they've got backstory to go off of immediately without doing the work for it. It's that they have multiple options as well.
Right. And all they need to do is just get one nerd in there to basically be all, push up his glasses, snort, and be all, I don't think he can do that because we're dealing with the fourth retcon of Venom's origin, But, they didn't even pay that dude.
Yeah. On the same subject, I do want to ask, what did you think of Venom's effects when he was full symbiote Venom mode?
I'm not sure if it's my TV, the sort of digital quality of the...
we might be on the same page. Keep talking.
But I feel like we've taken a big step back in CG effects.
We're in agreement on Venom in this one.
Because I felt the same way about the Predator, the Predator.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, here's some notable things. Darkness makes CGI easier. You can hide a lot of the flaws. It's one of the things that makes Jurassic Park hold up so well.
Yeah.
The T-Rex scenes. This movie was nothing but night scenes, and they still didn't blend it well. And I felt like I don't know, you tell me how accurate this is to the comics, but I always felt like Venom kind of pulled in light. He would be the darkest thing in a scene, even if it's nighttime. And in the movie, it felt like he had this kind of pasty tinge to him versus pulling in, sucking in light.
Right. They were trying to sort of represent, they were trying to get it a little bit for the fanboys and make a situation where they could show color of all the symbiotes. But yeah, you're totally right. At least in the drawings, and the black suit was originally Spider-Man's black suit. It had nothing to do with Venom, and it was jet black, and it was drawn jet black. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't.
Yeah. That was what I felt pulled me out of that. Lighting is everything. It's everything in video games. It's the holy grail of, producing realism in video games. And same thing with CGI. If that lighting's off.
Yeah. They tried to make it shiny.
Yeah.
They
didn't need to.
Added too much. So have you ever seen, John Boyega from the new Star Wars?
Yeah.
So he was in this great English horror film.
Attack the Block?
Attack the Block, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You remember the baddies in that? How they were just literally black cutouts on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm thinking when you're saying this, is about how it's this negative void kind of.
Yeah. That's how I imagine the symbiote suit. It's, if you're seeing light, it's reflecting off of, I don't know what, but it should be the light flashes that you see should be the accents of the suit, not the highlight of the suit with darkness as the accent. You know what I mean? I agree. Like a negative space.
Right. Venom was liquid and he was, crazy, bendy, shooty and all that stuff, but I never really thought of him as slimy.
Yeah, me either. No, not at all. It feels like this. To me, it always felt like more of a latexy type of.
Yeah, or tar or something.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like plastic and tar mixed together.
Yeah, I agree.
But not slimy. It felt, it didn't feel that organic that it even could be slimy.
So it does make me want to go back and watch some of the movies in history that I thought had these great action effects, and sort of look at them, because between the Predator and Venom, I'm finding myself feeling that we haven't evolved quite as far as I thought we did. So, how all those kids I forget where they were, but they were trapped in the cave system.
Yeah. The soccer team.
I remember thinking like, that of course it was a terrible tragedy and I was terrified for these kids and everything, but I remember
bases covered, go on.
Right. I remember being a little disappointed in the human race that we didn't have some sort of more advanced technology to save these kids.
Oh, I agree.
And this movie is, I thought we were better than this. I thought I thought we had more technology than this. It's not like this movie didn't have the budget.
Well, are you sure though? What was the budget? Because I haven't looked it up, but I feel like
I
feel like we do have the technology. I just feel like it's not being used. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I want to go back and look at some of well, I mean, technology has changed in other regards. When I was watching a lot of these other movies, I was watching it maybe on the big screen where it was film, or I was watching it on a different television, but now everything's flat screen. Everything's high.
I think a lot of it too, though, Chauncey, like with earlier special effects, they're trying to do as much from a practical standpoint as they can, so that the CGI can overlay on top of practical effects or accent practical effects versus
even Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
I imagine that in my head, those effects were way better, but now I kind of want to watch it again and be all like, oh, okay, it is totally superimposed looking.
Yeah, but that's still, like, I think a lot of that is still switching between a guy in a suit that they filmed with a green screen in a flying position, and they're using special effects to overlay on top of an existing motion.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of this was
pure CGI. There wasn't,
Yeah, like the fight scene between Riot and Venom, it's like you could tell that Tom Hardy was basically a voiceover. He was sitting in some soundproof booth pretending he had nothing to do with being in the scene.
And that felt like a cartoon fight at that point. Like the biggest downside to special effects being done that poorly is that me as an audience member, I don't feel like I have a stake in the scene anymore.
Right. Yeah. I want to know that it's like watching NASCAR. I don't want anybody to crash, but I know it's a possibility.
Yeah.
But when I'm watching the fight between Venom and Riot, it's basically watching a battle of zeros and ones.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well I'm not sure if I'm the zero or the one. Yeah. But I mean, I don't think that the effects team is to be blamed on that. I think the director is. On that aspect, the effects team are to be blamed on the quality of the CGI, or
absolutely. And it doesn't, like, I know I've seen the numbers, and practical effects are almost always cheaper too, and just hold up better. So to me, it seems like it would be a smart monetary choice, even just to lay off the digital.
Yeah, it should be proof as to how good this movie is the fact that we just sat here and talked about the effects the whole time.
That's true. I mean, Tom Hardy's acting was good, and I genuinely enjoyed, like his coming to the realization that he's got something inside him, and then, growing to work with it. But he nailed it. It never felt forced, it never felt fake, and it felt in line with his character.
I disagree.
Do you think he didn't freak out enough?
No, I found his acting to be sort of like meh.
Okay, I liked it. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel phoned in to me. I felt like
the hard part about acting to me is that is it the writing or is it the acting?
Yeah. Well,
So
having seen the movie Upgrade, Chauncey, which is a recent body horror film starring Logan Marshall Green, and kind of mirrors the same idea of Venom.
right.
Watching someone who looks very similar to Tom Hardy undergo the exact same realizations with this, instead of a symbiote, it's an AI that's, can help control his body. But it also speaks to him in his head, and watching both these actors do kind of the same role, I guess maybe I appreciate it more because I felt like Tom Hardy delivered the better version of this.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's like a Wyatt Earp
Tombstone. Yeah, there we go.
Connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have to watch this Upgrade. I think it's really funny that it's totally paralleled there and everything.
You should. I think they do a better job with the action sequences, personally.
The other movie that we can't help but to bring up and make a comparison to here is Life. Did you see Life?
I didn't see Life. No, that was one I just kept putting on the back burner over and over and over again.
When Life came out, everybody thought that it was sort of like a sneaky prequel to Venom.
Oh, I had no idea. I didn't know that was even a secret fan theory.
Yeah, and it, frankly, it still could be somewhat connected, but they should have gone with that more. That was a really good movie, a really cool movie, and if they had just picked it up from the end of Life and really sort of run with it from there, it would have just been an awesome transition. You'll have to watch the movie. I guess we can't talk about it too much because
I might give that one a watch today.
Yeah, it's great. And Jake Gyllenhaal, he irritates me because he kind of looks like every doofus I hated in high school, but he's really good in it, But all in all, would I watch Venom again? Yeah, I'm going to end up watching it again because it's a comic book movie, and that's what I do. I like them. I watch them.
If I'm so in a movie, I'm one and done typically.
So
this maybe the only time I watch Venom.
Well, with comic book movies, I tend to wait a year and watch them again because I like the roller coaster ride, and I like thinking. Because when I watch these things, I think about a lot of the backstory, and that's going to be a big part of what people complain about this movie, like Venom's eyes. Why are they shaped like that? He's supposed to have been the Spider-Man suit, and that's why they're shaped like that. And Riot is not supposed to be that. Carlton Drake actually gets in the comics shot up with Spider-Man DNA and becomes Homo erectus, evolves into this thing that eats half the company, the Life Foundation that he works for. And Riot is actually a symbiote. So in the comics, there's Venom, and then he spawns his symbiote. So Carnage and these other ones are actually offshoots. And Riot is actually one that they forced out of him, through fake meat.
Okay, so, I didn't realize in the comics that all the symbiotes had come out of Venom.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of complaints with people about the story. But of course, a lot of this has been retconned and changed over the years. Originally, Venom was just straight up evil, kind of doing evil stuff. But later, he sort of became sort of an anti-hero and stuff like that. So I'm not really
I know they've got that whole line of Venom as U.S.
Agent Venom.
Yeah.
And that's actually Flash Thompson is when he's Agent Venom. That's the bad guy from when Peter Parker was in high school. So there's a lot of Spider-Man.
I know Flash from the show. Yeah, I do want to institute a new portion of our podcast starting now, Chauncey. I feel like no matter how bad the film is, we both probably have a scene that we liked more than any other. So would you start off our first portion of what was your favorite scene from Venom?
Oh, man. I wasn't prepared. So if I had to just come right off the deal, I would say that my favorite scene was probably when he first gets confronted.
Okay.
All the way through the motorcycle chase scene, that whole action sequence of him getting confronted.
Yeah, I like that too. And I was going to say my favorite shot in the movie was the motorcycle shot where they go into slow-mo and you see him kind of falling off of the cycle.
Yeah,
But I thought it was artful. I was like, I hope there's more shots like this in the film.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, there weren't more shots like that in the film. But but that was my favorite my favorite chunk for sure.
Yeah, and I have to say the sets, while the computer effects were not necessarily all that great, all the sets were really sort of like beautiful. The Oakland scenery was like rad when they're coming through the streets, when they're looking at the rocket through the forest and everything. All the sets are just like really rad looking.
Yeah.
But once again, that was physical, real world effects.